Alright guys, hey, welcome in. Got a quick little video on how to draw the Jordan 11, one of the most popular Jordans, I would say. Just a little step-by-step tutorial to get you started on this Jordan 11. So let's get right into it. The first step is kind of how I start out with all shoes, is kind of having kind of a flat back and then kind of a flat bottom. So that's kind of where I would kind of set up my shoe, is kind of having that almost like an L shape. So I kind of have that back and then that bottom. But then with the Jordan 11, it probably, and you'll see a lot of this on the steps where I'll start out really lightly and then I'll add it. So I know you can't see it right away, but that's intentional so that you can't see it right away. So on the back, it kind of is a little bit thicker and then it kind of curves up a little bit. So I guess it's kind of like an arched line on the back. It has a little bump out. So it has a little bump out on the bottom. That kind of turns into almost the heel part of the shoe. And then it curves up a little bit, down one, and then two times. Now I've drawn the Jordan 11 quite a few times, so I can do it almost out of memory. So it kind of has that bump here, and then it also bumps out again. And that kind of starts to curve up. But I think if you get that basic kind of start for the bottom, that'll help you a lot in the final part of it. So this kind of curves all the way up, and it kind of has where it goes slowly up towards this top. So some people actually go back over to this side and then kind of do that top part, and then knowing that it kind of curves, not exactly at a diagonal, it kind of starts off almost kind of finishing that round toe box part of it. So it kind of goes forward and then kind of comes up onto there. So that's the basic shape. So you kind of got that basic arch, but it has definitely more curves than it's, you know, as boxy as some of the other Jordans. This one definitely has some more curvy lines onto there. I'm gonna skip the tongue for right now, and I'm gonna go on to the sole of the shoe, since I had a little bit of the sole here. So this one kind of curves, it kind of goes up and then down. So it kind of meets a little closer into there and then goes back up. And then this part kind of goes right down, almost where this one goes. It kind of goes down and then almost right back up to about that same. So almost if this would kind of continue across. Then on this part, it kind of comes down, goes back up, and then really goes straight until you hit right to the end on there. So that's kind of that midsole part. Now there is kind of a clear bottom that I also add on here. I have almost like a little bump over here, and then kind of comes back around and all the way up. So that kind of goes up and then all the way around. This part over here also kind of goes up and then back down. And this part on this side kind of curves from that edge and then almost follows that same line on there until like it would meet onto there. And then I kind of redo that bottom part to kind of give it a little bit more, I guess, design and a little bit more of an edge. Down and then back underneath into there. It kind of goes up a little bit, so these kind of almost connect together and then go apart again when it comes back down here. And then this also kind of meets and connects onto here. And then again, they kind of break apart. And this starts to actually kind of go up a little bit, so it kind of adds to that curve of the front of the shoe onto here. And it's actually pretty thin here, but it does have a little bit of a lip on the top on there. The patent leather part I usually add next, because it's almost kind of like you're building a sandwich, you know, from one part to the next part. So that part kind of has a flat back. That part has a flat back and then kind of goes up to the Jordan logo. and then comes back down, goes up one more time, and then when it comes back down, it kind of meets where this comes down. So if you kind of have an idea of that, almost like a roller coaster, kind of going up and then down, up and then down. And by the time it gets down here, then the only place that it's going is up by the kind of shoelaces on here. So again, starting off lightly and then going up onto that kind of toe box area. So I can kind of make that a little bit darker now that I'm a little bit more confident on it. So you got pretty much starting to definitely look like the Jordan 11 onto there. And then I'm gonna do that kind of arched line that kind of goes from here all the way up to the top. Kind of sets apart, you know, the back from the front of the shoe a little bit, and also has a little flat part, but then it kind of bumps out, and that's almost kind of the heel. Goes almost like a triangle, kind of in this kind of shape over here. This one kind of stretches out almost all the way to the kind of where the tongue would be, but this one kind of goes back and then up there and then follows really thin onto there, but this actually, you know, meets with that bottom part of it. And then this edge just kind of curves and starts going down, and then you'll get kind of some of the shoelaces in there. Okay, so then the next part I do is kind of these little stripes that go on the side, or they're almost like the lace attachments. There's 6 of them, so there's 6 of those onto there. So it's kind of like, let's see, we'll start on here. So 1, they each have kind of 2 lines, and they're kind of pretty evenly spaced out. I always try to hit the spots that they're on, so they kind of go almost like a sun kind of around. I think that's actually how they got the design part of it. So we'll go kind of 1, 2, and then the other one hits over here. 1, 2, and then there's some smaller ones here. 2, 3, 4, 5, and a little one on the outside. So that's those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got all 6 of those. And then that's actually where the laces kind of loop into there. So I'm going to give this a little bit more of a kind of frame, at least in between those, where it's kind of got something in there. And then the laces kind of loop, you know, from one to the next. So in order to do that, you just kind of take 1 line, 2 lines, 1 line, 2 lines, and kind of each one kind of has those kind of 2 lines. I guess you can kind of go up and then back down. And that's, I guess, an easier way to do some of those laces onto there to help them make them look a little bit more realistic. And the last part I'm going to add is that kind of tongue. I'm going to have it kind of go up and then back towards that kind of middle onto there. So mostly we got the Jordan 11 there, except for the Jumpman symbol. And I do have another video on Jumpman and how to make the Jumpman logo. But basically how I started out, hole, it kind of fits in between this kind of part and here. Kind of goes almost like a triangle. The bottom I always start out with like that triangle kind of bottom, and then almost like an X, how it kind of goes crisscross. That kind of goes up into there, and that's where he's kind of grabbing that ball. And then kind of a straight line in the middle, kind of fill it in a little bit. Make sure my lines are kind of all evening out here, and then add his head onto there. And slowly it starts to look a little bit more like a Jordan symbol, but then I'll go over it a little bit more dark. I'll add some more details. Some of the details that I really like to do, especially on a lot of my shoes, is kind of put some of those little kind of dashes onto there. Like I can see it in the patent leather almost all the way through a lot of the seams. It's actually where they put the stitching onto there. So I like to add a lot of those. So that's one detail that I like. On the bottom of the soles, it has like these little kind of notches or dashes on here. So that makes it almost as like the traction or the grip of the shoe. So I like to add some of those on here. So those are some of the details. I'll go through that a little bit quicker, but the more details, the more realistic that it'll look onto there, and then I'll quick speed it up when I do my coloring. So that hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you guys can get a good picture of the Jordan 11. It's one of my favorite Jordans to do. It's one of those that I can do pretty much without even thinking about it too much, just because I've done it so many times, and it's one of my favorite shoes. Definitely one that I have probably about 4 or 5 different types of Jordan 11s. All right, so sit back, relax, and kind of enjoy some of the speed and fast forward now. Just like that, my Jordan 11. Add some different types of tools on there. Added some colored pencil along with my pencil. Got it some Crayola markers, just some used up ones and some regular ones on there to do the shading, and some Sharpie and crayon on there. As always, I am Mr. Shooty. This is Mr. Shooty's Art Channel, and we will talk to you guys later.